Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
Philosophically, for us, every single kid who decides to play football is important. And I always say we coach kids, not football. When you look at it through those lenses, if you're coaching football, then maybe you have a tendency to just focus on the kids who can help you win. But when you coach kids, then you look at it the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish as a coach, every kid becomes important and their involvement in your team is important.
Today's episode is one from our archives where I'm joined by Avon High School head coach Mike Elder. Coach Elder and the Avon Eagles won their first state championship last night. I've been able to watch Mike grow his program over the years from one that was struggling into a perennial state powerhouse. The Eagles have been coming close often, and they finally got over the hump against a very good Anderson team in the Ohio Division II state championship last night in Canton, Ohio. The game came down to the last play, and it was a very well-played game. I commend both teams. Very difficult conditions in the snow, but I think it was a testament to the excellence in the coaching of both Mike Elder and Evan Dreyer and their staffs. Coach Dreyer was a National Coach of the Week in 2024, and I'll link that episode in the show notes. In this episode, Coach Elder gives us insight on how to build a program, and in my opinion, he's one of the best in Ohio and in the country at building a program. This was his first episode with us in 2017, and he's done several of them since. I'll link those in the show notes. He now has over 200 wins at Avon in 18 years and 250 overall as a head coach. He's taken his team to the state semifinals several times and has been a runner-up and is now a state champion. You'll definitely take away some things from what he has to share in this episode. We'll be sure to get Coach Elder back on for our Champion Series presented by Signature Championship Rings in 2025.
The holidays are back at Starbucks, and there's so much to share. With classics like Caramel Brulee Latte, Peppermint Mocha, and Chestnut Praline Latte, we're celebrating everyone's flavor of festivity. Order yours in the app.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Today's guest is Mike Elder, and I've been trying to run down Coach Elder now for almost a year, and the interesting part is he's probably only a few miles away from me. So, Coach, it's great to have you here on the podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Well, I appreciate your patience in hunting me down, but I'm really pleased to talk with you today.
Coach, I'm going to share a little bit of your background before we get going here. Coach Elder has been a head coach now for 17 years. His record overall is 163-44, and at his current head coaching job, which is in Avon, Ohio, he's 113-21. They were state semifinalists this past year, state runner-ups in 2011, and Coach played at Mount Union, where he was an All-American in 1992. He coached there in 1999, And you definitely can see some of the Larry Karras effect on how you coach the game. You are very detail-oriented, and I'm excited to talk to you about really what you're doing in Avon that I think a lot of coaches across the country would be interested in here, because you guys, in a time where I read just about every week about numbers hurting in football, Coach, you've been able to actually increase your numbers.
We have. It's something for us that we take very seriously. We look at every off season and ways to get better at marketing our program. You know, when you talk about marketing, that's a process or technique of promoting, selling, and distributing a product or service. And for us, the first thing we did as a coaching staff is sit down and look at our target market and who did we want to market Avon football to. And the first people that would be the players. And then secondly, your parents. Third, I think it's important to market your program to your student body, and then your administration, and then obviously your community. So those are the 5 targets for us to make sure that we continue to have the great numbers we do. Program-wise, this past season, we're a Division II school in Ohio. That's the second largest division, but we had 93 kids, 10 through 12, out for football. Our freshman team had about 46 kids on it for football. We had about 100 middle school kids, 7th and 8th grade combined. And then we had a youth program with about 165 kids, grades 3 through 6. So I feel what we're doing is working, but it's something we're always continuously trying to do to get better.
And I know for you, this is not just, I'm gonna market my program. You have a background in marketing, and you've been able to apply that, obviously, to your job here. And currently, you're also the HR director for the Avon School. So you have a lot on your plate. So being able to be very effective and obviously sending out a message that everybody is going to receive and be a part of it has been a huge part of this. And really, you've gotten your staff involved in this whole process of marketing your program.
Yeah, we do. We get our staff involved with our program. There's 33 guys on our staff, grades 7 through 12. A lot of those guys are volunteers, but every single one of them is very important to be on the same page. And so when we sit down, we talk about marketing the program for our football players. And the first thing we decided to do is to get kids to want to play football. We need to make them feel big time. So that goes from everything from the uniforms that we purchase for our kids. We have probably about 8 to 10 different combinations of uniforms we can wear because that's important to kids. Our locker room, we always look to upgrade it and do neat things in there with pictures and graphics. We have what's called the Dirty Dozen Club, which is our morning workout groups all throughout the summer. We have helmet stickers for that. We give away T-shirts. We have a group called Tough Street, which is a pretty prestigious group that all of our players aspire to be part of. It's mental and physical toughness exhibited throughout a year, and the coaches nominate guys and put it in there. We get a highlight video in our trophy case at the school that we try to get running 24/7. So as kids walk by, they'll see that, or when people are at basketball games, they'll see that. We took our team to Florida this year and made a trip down there and played Merritt Island, Florida. Great program down in Disney. So that was a great group. If we don't go on a trip like that, we always go to a team camp at a college or university, and on the way home, we'll go to a water park or go play paintball or stop at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then we give daily and weekly awards all the time in our program. It costs nothing to recognize kids at the end of every practice, where you go around and you ask a coach who stood out in that practice and why. For some kids that don't get the reward of playing all the time on Friday night, they will get that recognition, and it's the little victories that they get to keep them coming back. Because obviously when you're a sophomore, it can be difficult when you're playing in a successful program like ours to wait your turn. But when you win a day because your coaches recognize you in front of all your teammates and they're patting you on the back, and you're more inclined to stick it out and wait your turn, which we've had a lot of guys do in our program. So the first thing, like I said, is marketing it to our players. For our parents, a lot of people try to ignore parents, but their attitude does matter in a football program. We'll do a cookout at the beginning of every year where we invite all the families for this. We do a thing in Avon called now, I think it's like Football 108, where we invite all the moms to talk football with the coaching staff. The parents love it. We make it a fun thing where we educate them on some things, and we also address some of the safety concerns. Because if you want kids to play, then you better make sure the parents understand what you're doing to keep their kids safe, because that's one of the most important things to a mother. We have team meals every Friday where our parents get together and they make those meals for us. And then for me personally, I have an open door policy with our parents. It's a 24-hour rule, meaning don't talk to me right after a game, but I will talk to you about anything that you want to talk about, even if it's playing time, because honestly, what I found is that if I don't address it, I don't talk to the parents, then they're at home and the message they're delivering to their kid can be adversely affect our team. And then we preach to our players all the time, respect and gratitude for their parents, and to include them in this process. So we continue to facilitate opportunities to bring our parents into the locker rooms. When they're seniors, it's called the senior experience, where they get to come in and be our guests on the sidelines at a pregame meal, being there for the pregame speech where we introduce those parents to the entire team. So that's one of the biggest things we try to do as well with regards to marketing our program to the parents.
I remember that, Coach, and I thought it was a really interesting thing, that senior experience. And former player of yours, and I coached his brother and worked with his father, actually, as he was my defensive coordinator, Corey Oradzansky, who's now playing at the college level. I remember it was their day. I went to one of the games, and I remember they were going into the locker room, and I thought that was a really neat aspect of it, of how you involve the parents like that. And just with something you said there too, I want to emphasize the point. I think a lot of coaches talk about, I'm not going to discuss playing time with anybody but the players, but I don't think that's something that's relevant in our transparent society today. I think you have to be willing to discuss anything. And I agree with that 24-hour rule, but at the same time, like, everything has to be on the table as a coach.
I agree with that 100%. I've had that philosophy at one point in my life where I told the parents I didn't want to talk to them. I just would talk to their kids. They're young men. But the truth be told, nobody loves their child. Nobody loves a player more than their own parents. And so for me, I think if we want this to be a family environment and we want everybody on the same page, then it's important to have open communication. And you don't always tell parents what they want to hear, but when you're honest and open and you listen, I think generally that helps move past things, and that's what we try to do in our program.
Coach, moving on to your other levels, obviously you have to make football relevant to that group as you look at how you're going to market it. And again, what you see in the media, obviously all the inherent risks that everybody's putting out there with football, that you have to find a way to make sure that they understand that the benefits far outweigh the risk. And like you said, that we're doing things to make this game safer for their players.
Yeah, we obviously do this Football 101 event, and our parents in our community absolutely love it. The moms can't wait. We usually do it at a local restaurant. It's for all of our moms to get together and maybe foster some new friendships that they're going to see people throughout the year. But you also have a captured audience, and you talk about all the intangibles that don't relate to winning and losing games directly, and that's what you focus on. And the first one they want to all talk about is safety, and we'll talk about our new tackling style, or we'll talk about the equipment that we've purchased and that we've upgraded, and we'll talk about any rule changes that have been implemented in the game that are going to make kids safer. Because as a coach, I truly do believe that there's no safer time to play football. Is there a risk? Absolutely. But I just want the parents to understand that we're doing everything in our power to keep their kids safe. And when you do that, it's the gremlin effect. They all go out and they might talk to that third or fourth grade parent and say, hey, but did you know they do this in Avon? And as a result, I think we spread that message, and it's been able to help us maintain our numbers here.
And I know your involvement is something that's really impressed me. I remember years back, I don't know if it was a bye week or we had a night game, but I was able to come out and see my son Aiden play a game out at Avon against, you guys, they're hosted at different sites, so I don't remember if it was against your team that day. But the thing I was impressed with is that it's a Saturday, probably early afternoon, and typically you expect to see the varsity head football coach in his office game planning, and there you are out on the field interacting with those young players, those coaches of those programs, and those parents. And obviously that's an important thing for you, that it's not just you're worried about varsity and doing that well, that you're looking at this as long-term development of these athletes from the time they hit your program, flag football, or whatever that may be, all the way up to the time they graduate.
Yeah, I think that as a head football coach in a program, if there's ever an opportunity for you to be at an actual game, and I mean third grade all the way up through 12th grade, where you're physically able to be there and you don't take advantage of that, then you're missing the boat. With regards to the way we watch film now and the way we game plan, it's different than it was years ago, where you'd have one tape and everyone would have to sit around the same TV and watch that film. Now everybody kind of watches tape at their own leisure, and then we get together and we meet Sunday evenings to discuss game plan. But all of our coaches, every single one of them are at the JV games. I go to every single freshman game that I can get to that's at home. Obviously, I have a son who plays in the 8th grade level, but with him or without him there, I would be at every middle school game I can get to. I'm standing in front of those kids after a win or loss, talking to them about what it means to be an Avon Eagle football player. And then the youth level, it's super important that you have a presence there, like you mentioned. So we work hard at that, and obviously it takes a commitment to do so. But you have to know, in Avon, I also have an amazing staff where I've been able to step back a little bit when it comes to some of the schematic things in our program and turn those over to some other people who are really competent so that I can do more of the marketing stuff for our program as a whole.
Is it time to reimagine your future? The right business skills may make a difference in your career. At Capella University, we offer a relevant education that's designed to focus on what you need to know in the business world. We'll teach professional skills to help you pursue your goals, like business management, strategic planning, and effective communication. And you can apply these skills right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
I think the other thing you've done, Coach, with your program is you've really thought out how you want these guys to evolve as players. And, at USA Football, we talk about long-term athlete development. We look at things like the American development model and how these different games fit in from flag all the way to 11-man. And, you've had a little experience. You've studied a little bit of what we've done with the rookie tackle, and you've implemented that into your program as well.
We have. I looked at our program holistically with my entire staff and thought, boy, with all the decreasing numbers going on in this country and specifically in our area, what can we do to keep kids identifying as football players? Because truth be told, I don't really think a kid has to play football until 7th grade. But if we don't offer them something prior to that age, in today's society where everything's year-round with regards to, AAU basketball or summer baseball teams that practice all winter, I think kids get caught into this pigeonhole of just doing one thing. So we have to offer things to kids at early ages. And so in Avon, K1-2, that's a flag football league. 3-4, that is going to be a flag football league, but fully padded, which was our first year doing that this year. I actually coached one of those teams. I had a son on it, and it went exceptionally well. A lot of great feedback from that, and our numbers were fantastic. We actually increased numbers from the year before where we were just doing flag football in 3rd grade and then full tackle in 4th. So combined, I think our numbers went up as a result of our new approach. And then next year, our 5th and 6th grade is 11-on-11 tackle, but I am really pushing hard to make our 5th grade rookie tackle USA Football model, and then 6th grade be the first 11-on-11 tackle experience in our community.
I think it's very interesting, and I've been looking for other models like this because you had mentioned to me you were doing the padded flag. And I don't know how much you've had time to study why that went so well, but what things do maybe you attribute to the numbers and the success of that? You look at it at a bridge between, you don't go from flag right away all the way into tackle. You have this padded flag in between.
Well, what we were finding in Avon, at least, and I don't think it's probably exclusive to our community, but we were offering K1, 2, 3 flag. And then in 4th grade, there was no flag opportunities anymore. It was tackle. And so some 3rd graders were also playing tackle. That was an opportunity to them. And so that 3rd grade was split, half playing flag, half playing tackle. And by bringing it together where everybody now was on the same page and playing this padded flag, perception becomes reality. And any parent with a kid in 3rd, 4th grade who's still developing, who's still physically not even necessarily to a point where they can support the weight of equipment at times, yet they're out there in full 11-on-11 contact football games. What I found is that some of our kids in 3rd grade weren't coming back and forth because maybe their parents pushed them to the game too quickly. So by throwing pads on, these kids are excited because they get to take that next step of putting on a helmet and shoulder pads. My own son, who was in 4th grade this year, was so excited about finally wearing helmets and shoulder pads because he had played flag football in 3rd grade. Yet there wasn't the tackle element where I think sometimes your less physical kids who maybe aren't ready for it yet are turned off at an early age because of the contact. So this was a bridge between the two. The padded flag did have some contact. It did have blocking involved in it, but you didn't have those shots on a quarterback who was standing back there maybe without good pass protection, or the running back being tackled to the ground continuously. And I feel like skill-wise, we were able to develop some of the same skills because basically our games were played the way we practice at the varsity level most every day.
Coach, I'm going to definitely have to have you back on again and pick your brain about some of these ideas with the marketing and how you've developed your program. But moving on in some of your takeaways from 2017, I know before we got talking here that you said this was one of the best off seasons that you've had in terms of what you've been able to do with your athletes. And in addition to that, you guys have taken really a more holistic approach to this instead of the old school way of, hey, weight room's open from here to here.
Yeah, we're blessed with a guy named Jared Cicchetti. He surrounded himself with 2 or 3 other coaches, and Jason Oakes, Jeremy Goldeisen, guys who are just passionate about strength and conditioning and training our athletes. And when I look at our team this year, we had 7 players returning, and we made it to the state Final Four, and we're 13-1. And when I ask ourselves the question, why did we have such a successful season? The gains we made strength-wise and speed-wise in our program were unprecedented. And so I'm not an expert in that area. They are the experts. But one thing I do know is this: the days are over where it's just about lifting. Our players go in, and yes, they have an organized, spelled out lifting plan. We also went to a facility here in town called P3, where we go there twice a week and we do speed development with some athletic trainers, speed trainers. That was a nice switch up for our kids to get away from our coaching staff and be coached by somebody else. So that was part of it. But I think the piece I was most impressed with is they met with every single player and they sat down and they set individualized goals with kids. Some kids wanted to lose weight. Some kids wanted to gain weight. Some kids were looking to gain muscle mass. Some kids were just looking to get quicker and faster. And so they individualized everyone's program, and nutritionally speaking, they put every kid on the plan to meet those goals. And to me, that was cutting edge, specifically for a high school program to do that. And it takes a big commitment out of those people, but we had 3 guys who were willing to do it. I don't think anybody really develops their players and maximizes their potential better than our program does in the weight room and in the off season.
And you have a really interesting approach to this too, in terms of your multi-sport guys. And I know you support the multi-sport athlete, but grades 9 and 10, you incorporate the lifting into their school day.
Yeah, we've got a program at Avon. We call it Speed Strength. It's a class that our kids can take. And we have encouraged and had probably at least 85 to 90% of our kids for the last 6 years are in a lifting class during the school day. And the reason we targeted that as opposed to targeting our older kids is because I think you establish those lifelong habits in 9th and 10th grade. And once these kids see the benefits of the weight room and they get addicted to that and they're in there and they love the culture and the energy that's in that room, by the time they're juniors and seniors and they're able to drive and they're able to get themselves there before school, it's not an issue anymore with transportation and making it happen. So we've pressed really hard to get every kid in there as part of their school day. They lift at the end of the day as sophomores and freshmen. And also those kids are probably still figuring out what sports they want to play and don't want to play. We'd love to have 3-sport athletes, but we don't have tons of them. I think our society set it up to where that just doesn't happen much anymore. But the ones we do have, we allow them to try to find time to get in the weight room during the day as well as juniors and seniors. But for the most part, we reserve the weight room during the day for all those freshmen and sophomores who are still figuring things out and learning their way around that room.
Coach, as we look at your third takeaway here from the 2017 season, this kind of, I think, goes back to some of the things we said before with the marketing and having your coaches involved. It's all about philosophy and the importance of having all 33 of those guys really buying into the culture that you've created.
Yeah, philosophically, we will sit down at least once a year in the off season and then right before the year with all of our coaches, 7 through 12, and talk about the philosophy of our program. And, I have two sons, and one of my sons is a little more talented athletically than the other, but I believe that they'll both benefit greatly as young men if they go through this program because of what we've established. And so philosophically for us, every single kid who decides to play football is important. And I always say we coach kids, not football. When you look at it through those lens, if you're coaching football, then maybe you have a tendency to just focus on the kids who can help you win. But when you coach kids, and you look at it the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish as a coach, every kid becomes important, and their involvement in your team is important. And I think that helps create a culture where your numbers are so high. And that's not just the way our coaches treat the players. I always tell our coaches, you coach them all and you coach them hard. And I want that kid who's first team all conference to be coached the same way as the kid who's a program player who will probably never see the field in his 4 years in your program. And then I want our players treating those guys the same in the locker room. So it takes an effort to do that, but I think that every kid who wears our uniform inherently feels very much part of what we do, and we find ways to give them small victories throughout it, which encourages those kids to stay the course and play for 4 years. And then one of our other philosophies is twos will play in our program. In Avon, we don't have 11 starters on offense, 11 starters on defense. We play probably 17 guys on offense and 17 guys on defense. We do not two platoon, but with some seniors, we do have them only coaching one side of the ball. But our varsity coaches are platooned. So when we are doing ones and twos individual offense, our threes and fours are doing individual defense and vice versa. So our young kids get a lot of coaching. They're made to feel important. One impressive statistic for us is we haven't lost a JV game since 2011. We've won 58 straight JV games. Wow. Most people would say, who cares? It's JV football. But we care because JV football is important in our school. And now we get this kid who waits a sophomore year, junior year, and hasn't played until a senior year. And why did he stick it out? Because we were able to make that important in our program.
Coach, from a personal standpoint, I'm saying that I think Avon might have their first JV loss this next year. We got a very talented group at Avon Lake.
You know what? This year they actually had us almost, I'll tell you. We won with a 38-yard field goal with our third-string kicker, so I never saw a celebration bigger than the one that happened when we protected that streak this past year.
Yeah, I saw the ending of that one. And you guys, I think as your kids are developing, you really probably could play fewer guys and win more ball games. But then as they get older, you really start to see that all those guys who are developing and contributing, it really starts to build into the vision for what you have, obviously, as they move on to varsity.
Yeah, we don't have the most impressive records in 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade, and that's certainly drawn a lot of criticism from some of our parents, but I always tell them to stay the course. You have to sometimes lose some battles to win the war. And the truth be told, and I am very much a firm believer of this, and if there's one thing anybody takes away from this, I think you got to really evaluate this, is that the number one indicator of success for kids at an early age, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, is not winning and losing. It's playing time. And so if you are going to commit, and we would commit to only putting our best 15 players out there, we might win more games, but unfortunately I don't think our numbers would be where they are. So we're trying to win the conference championship when they're juniors and seniors, not necessarily when they're in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And so it's been working for us, and it's something we'll continue to do. All of our kids have to play. I have strict guidelines that I give to my 7th, 8th, and 9th grade coaches, and it's cost us some games, but down the road, I think it's helped us with our numbers and helped us win games when it really matters, which is when they're juniors and seniors.
I think that's an important philosophy to have, Coach, and one that's not shared enough across our game. I think we're a competitive group as coaches. We get so focused on winning. But it's like you said, you lose some of those battles early so that you can win the war being what happens on Friday night. You want your guys to build to that. And I think we missed that point so much. How are you able to do that, obviously build that philosophy into the groups that are below 7th grade? That, you obviously don't have paid coaches at that level. So how do you build that philosophy into your program at those younger levels?
Well, I began the Avon Youth Football Association, that is our current organization, 11 years ago when I got to Avon. So I go to their meetings and I meet with those coaches, and I try to make myself a presence around there. We have a meeting where every year we get together myself and some of my other varsity coaches to go through some drills that we think that they may want to learn and that we think are pretty important for them to implement throughout their year. But we also talk philosophy, and that winning and losing is not what we're going to judge you by. It's going to be, did they have fun? Was it a great experience? If you started with 23 on your team, did you end with 23? I said, heck, my goal for you, and you'll be the most successful coach ever, is if you start with 23 and end with 24 or 25, because you got them so excited about football, they grab a neighbor and bring them with them week 2 or 3. So that's the key. I'm not super impressed with undefeated championship 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade programs or teams. If that happens by doing it the right way, then fine. That's a added bonus. But for the most part, I need these kids to have a lot of fun. I need them to learn the fundamentals of the game, and I need them to play the next year. And that's what I consider success.
And I appreciate everything you're doing for the game, and definitely going to have you back on the podcast in the future to pick your brain about some of these ideas and get into some of the details that I think can help coaches around the country. So thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate all you're doing as well. You do a great job with these, and I know that I enjoy listening to other coaches and stealing their ideas. So hopefully this will help somebody some way.
In the introduction, I mentioned our Champion Series for 2025. We have a new and unique format we'll be using where we'll have 3 state champions on each episode in a roundtable format. I know this is something you'll enjoy as they get into the things that they'd like to learn from each other about what it takes to win a state championship. We also have our Your Call segments coming back, in which you will be able to record with us and share your ideas that pertain to each topic as well. Look for those in 2025 and continue to listen to the Coaching Coordinator podcast. Follow us at coachingcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.